it's Robin from Green Cross Farms Makery, and we've been working on growing a sourdough starter, and part of that process is you get some excess, you get some discard, not quite strong enough to raise bread. So today I'm going to show you how to make some delicious buttery Parmesan sourdough discard crackers. So we're going to use up some of that sourdough discard that we are actually not discarding, we are saving, and we're going to use it. So I've made these before and they're delicious, so you're going to want to try them. First step in this recipe, because it's kind of a little added step, this is a 1/4 cup of butter. I melted it, but it's important that you don't use it warm. You need to let this come back to room temperature before you incorporate it in here. So this is a 1/4 cup of melted butter that I allowed to sit out to room temperature. So we need, for this recipe, we need 1 1/3 cups of our discard sourdough starter. So this is fresh from my freshly fed starter this morning, and some that I have been saving up over a couple of days. So this is 1 1/3 cups of that sourdough starter. All this really is flour and water. So that's really going to be the basis of our crackers. However, they're going to get a little bit of rise and lift from that sourdough fermenting that has been going on. And I'm just going to rinse that a little bit. So I've got that in my bowl. Now I'm going to add my melted and cooled butter. And again, that was a 1/4 cup, half a stick. And then I'm going to use just a little bit of salt. The recipe that I'll make available to you says 3/4 to a half a teaspoon of salt. You're not going to need that much unless you really like salty crackers. So I'm going to do maybe 1/3 of a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to add a little bit, but not a lot. So we are going to take our whisk and we're going to whisk this up really good. We want that starter fully incorporated into the butter and the salt. We're going to stir this up really, really well. Now, if your butter was too hot, it would kind of separate from that starter. We don't want that. Because it's room temperature, it is incorporating really nicely. And now, I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to get back to the spatula. Now we are going to add this yummy, this is what makes it yummy, Parmesan cheese. You need a cup of this. I'm using the Parmesan and Romano mix. Either one's fine. And we need a cup of this. Woo! A little bit. Here we go. So a cup of that. The recipe doesn't call for this, but you kind of have the option to add a thing or two. So I'm going to add some sesame seeds because I like crackers with seeds in them. So actually, I'm going to add maybe a tablespoon of sesame seeds in that. Again, that's optional. Now this Parmesan has salt in it. That's probably where you're going to get most of the salt from your crackers. Now I'm just folding this in. It's thickening up. It smells nice and cheesy in a good way. I think I've got that all mixed up really well. Next, you need, if you have a half sheet baking pan, this is about 13 by 18. If you don't have one this big, you could use 2 9 by 13 cookie sheets. That would work fine. But I happen to have this half-size baking sheet, and this works perfect. And parchment paper, not wax paper, parchment paper. And you're going to cut it roughly to fit this pan, and I'm just going to kind of crunch it into the edges just a little bit. Now this will keep your crackers from sticking. So I'm going to just plop this all in the middle. And then we're going to spread it evenly all along this parchment paper. Now, if you just have a spatula like this, that's fine. You can spread it out. But let me tell you what works really, really well is this offset spatula that like cake decorators use. It's kind of bent. This works great. So you're just going to spread that out. It's thick. kind of have to hang on to that paper a little bit when you first start. Not crucial. If it's not completely flat, you'll have lumpy, bumpy crackers, but it's okay, they'll still taste good. So I'm just going to work with this. I'm probably going to speed up the video. Okay, so that's all spread out. I'm going to do one extra thing that's not in the instructions, but kind of like the sesame seeds. I've got some very coarse salt, and I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of salt on the top. Maybe a 1/4 teaspoon, not very much at all. And then I'm going to take a fork, and I'm just going to stab some holes, just so my crackers don't bubble up and bend. Again, this step is optional. Now I have preheated my oven to 325 degrees. And I'm going to take this sheet and I'm going to put it in the oven for its first 30-minute bake. So I'll see you in 30 minutes. Okay, the first 30 minutes is up, so let's take out our crackers. They're not done yet. But we've got one more step. So they are starting to brown. They're still soft, but we want to score them now while they're still soft and finish baking them till they're crispy. So I'm just going to take this whole thing off, and you can use a knife. I'm going to use a pizza cutter, and I'm just going to score them in cracker-sized pieces, however big you want them. Now, if you skip this step, that's fine. When they're completely cooked, you can just break them up by hand. But this way, you kind of have more square or rectangles or whatever you want to cut them in. This direction. They're smelling yummy. I can smell that Parmesan cheese. And if I don't get all the way down to the bottom, that's fine. It just kind of gives me a score line when they're crispy. I can just kind of snap them on that line. And they're not exact, and that's okay. So now I'm going to put them back on the tray. I'm going to put them back in the oven for another 30 minutes to continue crisping up. So again, I'll see you in about 30 minutes. It's been another 30 minutes. Let's check on our crackers. These are looking good, good, good. Look at them, they're nice and toasty brown. They feel like they're crispy. We're gonna do one more thing. We're gonna stick these back in the oven. We're gonna turn off the oven, and we're just gonna let them sit in there until the oven cools. So it might take a couple hours, but these are gonna be super dry and crispy when we're done. See you in a little bit. Okay, it has been a couple of hours and our sourdough crackers have cooled down, so let's take a look. There they are. What do you think? I've got a taste tester.
They almost look puffy. Are they puffy? Or did they just curl up? No, they just curled up. They curled this way.
And no commentary, just eat them.
I like them warm. These are good.
So there you have them. Those are
very crunchy.
Those are buttery Parmesan sourdough discard crackers. I got this recipe online from butterforall.com. If you would like a PDF copy of this, just comment recipes in the comments and I will make sure you get one. So thanks for joining me, and we will see you all later. Bye-bye.
Follow us at Raincross Farms Makery on Facebook and YouTube.